Hey, good evening. Welcome back to Zay Reflections. I'm Zay, and if you liked what I share, please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications when I put out a new video. And today, we're going to talk about failure. I mentioned on my last video that I would start a series of talks on, just bad ideas from religion. And one of the things that I like to talk about is human failure today. And failure is something that's very dear to human beings because we all fail. And when you come from a strong religious background, failures aren't really celebrated. In fact, they're seen as a nuisance. They're seen as something that's in the way of our being human beings. When you are raised in a system that from the moment you're born, you're told that you are a sinner, that you have missed the mark, and you haven't even made your first, you haven't even accomplished your first breath yet. That's something to think about when you're raised in a culture that says you're born a sinner or you're born in need of something, you're born lacking. I don't know of a single parent that when their child is born, they say, "Oh, what a new sinner we just had." No, they're very happy that they had a boy or girl, and there's this excitement with the newborn baby. But then that baby begins to hit the ones and entering into being a toddler, and they start getting into things. They start breaking stuff and putting their fingers in places that are risky, and they do all kinds of things as children as they're trying to manage their new world. And one of the things that I often hear from a lot of parents is they say things like, "Oh, she's bad. She's being bad," or "She's a terrible two." And so already, they haven't even reached 2 years of age, and we're already marking them as failures because bad is not good. So we end up wiring them to believe early on that they're bad, and they're constantly wrestling with the good and the bad side. There is something about shadow work to where we recognize that we all have shadow and we all have light. The shadow is the part of us that we liken to the ego. I liken the ego to the child in all of us, that part of us that's afraid, that's trying to keep us safe. It doesn't always make the best decision when it's in charge because it's living out of a suitcase of fear. And then there's the part of us that I call the mid self. That's the awakened self that's trying to use principles and spiritual truths or philosophy to get us to a higher self. To me, this is the process of life. Knowing your ego, knowing that there's a mid self that where you can make choices, the bridge, and then your higher self, your God self, the self that tries to live the frequency of love and grace and kindness and power and purpose. So this is the spiritual journey. In some religious technologies, it's all about human failure. So we're constantly beating ourselves up for our failure. We have this notion that we should be perfect. We don't say that, but there's this inward guidance, this inward belief that there's something off with us, and we've got to reach for perfection. Perfection is a myth, and it's not possible. Yes, we can grow and we can mature and we can better ourselves, but perfection is an exhausting enterprise. The goal is to recognize that failure is a gift. Failure is that holy ache in us that lets us know that we've done wrong or we've been wrong or something needs to be corrected. That's a good thing. When things need to be corrected, that's a beautiful thing. When you were learning your multiplication tables, do they even still teach that now? But I remember when learning it in school, you made a lot of mistakes. My teacher didn't come around and crack my fingers with a ruler whenever I got something wrong. No, she just helped me get it right. She helped me make the correction. When we talk about the word sin, particularly in a biblical sense, the word sin just means to miss the mark. It comes from an archery term where you are trying to hit the bullseye. And when you are a professional archer, that is your goal, is to hit the bullseye. We miss the mark in so many areas of our lives. We fail in so many areas in our lives, whether how we might speak to someone in the morning. We might be a little gruff because maybe we're not morning people. Or maybe we yell at someone who cuts us off in the middle of an intersection or something. Or we do something else. There are a million ways in which we fail every day, every single one of us. You know, when Jesus in the scriptures, when the woman is brought to him, who's caught in adultery, by the way, they don't bring the man, they just bring the woman. Eventually, Jesus nails the Pharisees and says, he who is without sin cast the first stone. In essence, he who has never missed the mark, he who has always hit bullseye, dead center, every single day of your life, cast the first stone. There isn't a single one of us that can say that we've not failed. We still fail. Even in our greatest of growths in lives, we still fail. Failure, rather, is a gift because it helps us learn, it helps us overcome, it helps us see ourselves who we really are. And sometimes that's very painful. You know, in the last few weeks, I've really had to look at myself in a very hard, painful way, because I really want to live a life of integrity. I want to live a life of purity. I want to live a life of nobility, and I make mistakes. And even in my best attempts, I still find myself failing. But what I'm trying to do is forgive myself in those moments and allow those moments to teach me something. Allow those moments to make me a better person. But what I am learning to do is not to curse my failure, to not curse my shadow, but to bless it, to sort of integrate it with my light, to realize that I will always have shadow in my life. There will always be the yin and the yang. There will always be that part of us that needs to grow up. And that's just a reality. Whether we're 25, 45, 85, no one reaches the top of the mountain perfect. And I'll close with this. I once told my son, one of my sons rather, he was struggling with an issue where he was feeling like a failure and like he had just totally messed up. And I very lovingly said to him, I said, son, none of us were born to bat 1,000. There isn't a single baseball player that has had a perfect record, that has hit the ball every single time they're up at bat. No. At best, I mean, I'm not a baseball fan, but I think 400 is pretty high. 300 is average. So that's what, 4 out of every 6 attempts? That might be higher out there somewhere, but the point is, no one bats 1,000. Friends, we were not brought here to bat 1,000. We're here to learn how to love, how to forgive, but how to forgive others, but even probably in a greater sense, forgive ourselves, because sometimes we are our greatest enemy. We beat ourselves up because of our failures. We beat ourselves up because of our lack. And oftentimes religion is the force behind that. Bad religion, that is. Grace shows us a different pathway. It shows us that failure, sin, missing the mark is a part of our narrative. And we can try to erase that all day long, but we never will. If you can accept the fact that you are a human being, and in your beingness, you will make mistakes, you will drop the ball, you will miss the mark. That doesn't mean you just go out and just be flippant about that and you hurt and harm people on purpose. God forbid. But we do recognize we are humans. I love what Rumi said. Rumi said this. He said, we are all helping each other home. What a beautiful concept. If I can be kind to myself and my failings, then I can be kind to others as well. I hope this blesses you. Peace, and may you have a beautiful evening.